Kashmir Shaivism is a theological and philosophical system that has its roots in the Tantric worldview. Some scholars now prefer to call it non-dual Shaivism of Kashmir, while others prefer Trikashastra or Trikashaivism as its name. It emerged from the numerous cults of Tantric Shaivism, preceptorial lines, and Shaivagamic textual traditions that evolved, developed, and flourished in Kashmir from as early as the 5th century CE. By about the 7th century, these cults and traditions started synthesizing and integrating, assuming a definite and distinct identity and character. At the beginning of the 9th century, non-dual Shaivism witnessed a new upsurge when the Shiva Sutras were revealed to the sage Vasugupta by none else than Shiva himself. What distinguishes this system of philosophy is its monistic vision that sees the relationship between man, world, and God essentially as that of oneness. Kashmir Shaivism perceives the ultimate reality as one pure, undifferentiated, and infinite consciousness, which it calls Parama Shiva, with its creative and active power vibrating in every atom of the universe. Consciousness, Kashmir Shaivism maintains, is not just one's awareness of one's own self and one's environment, but an all-pervasive principle that forms the ground and substratum of all existent things. There is nothing that exists outside or apart from consciousness, which though one appears to be many and diverse, all diversity being but its emanation. The concept of Shakti is central to non-dual Shaivism, as it is this creative and active cosmic power of Parama Shiva or universal consciousness that is the source of all manifested reality. According to Kashmir Shaivism, Parama Shiva, who is both transcendent and immanent at the same time, manifests himself as the phenomenal world and all its entities together with Shakti, who being his infinite power of awareness is in no way separate from him, as heat is not separable from fire. It is impossible to conceive of any difference which could separate Shakti from Shiva, says Vasugupta. In the Paratrimshika Vivarana, both Shiva and Shakti are, in fact, two aspects of a conjoint reality, united in the oneness of consciousness. Simultaneously, they open out and manifest the phenomenal world with all its diversity and variety, and reabsorb it, the manifested forms, in no way affecting the one consciousness. For the Kashmir Shaivite, the symbolism of the bipolar unity of these two cosmic principles is what constitutes the highest point of bliss in the ultimate mystical experience. The Kashmiri Shaivite thinkers use the metaphor of light to explain the oneness of these two highest universal principles, in terms of which it perceives the ultimate reality. Shiva they represent as the Absolute, as self-luminous light which illuminates everything but does not need anything outside of it to make it able to do so. Through the creative nature and inherent dynamism of its self-reflective power or vimarsha, the universal consciousness manifests itself as a world of diversity. Reality thus, in Kashmir Shaivite terms, is Prakash, Vimarshamaya, Vimarsha being the reflective power that makes consciousness conscious of itself. Central to Kashmir Shaivism is the concept of the fundamental unity of the universe, of diversity, and the notion of interrelation of all things. Sarvam Sarvatmakam. This unity is integral and organic, as noted Shaiva scholar Mark S.G. Dichkovsky points out. Parama Shiva, or the Supreme Being, who makes all varied forms of the universe to appear as the light of consciousness, has a creative and self-referential aspect, Shakti, which unfolds itself everywhere. Indeed, the entire universe, with its infinite variety of objects, is nothing but the cosmic expansion of one Parama Shiva in his aspect as Shakti. Vimarsha is Shiva's self-awareness of his freedom to create. It is the one reality which manifests itself as many. Shiva as absolute consciousness contains the entire world of subjects and objects within himself in a potential form. He is like a poet who bursts into song to express his joy of creation. He is an artist with the world as his aesthetic creation, existing within him as the faint outline of a painting on a canvas, brimming with rapture. He spills his joy around, and the world comes into existence. Freedom to create and consciousness are synonymous in Kashmir Shaivism. Chiti, Swatantra, Vishwa Siddhi Hetu, says Kshema Raja. The supremely independent Chiti or consciousness is the cause of the universe. At another place, he says of Chiti or consciousness, Swechaya, Swabhittau Vishwam Unmilayati. Of her own free will, she unfolds the universe on her own screen. The infinite variety of the manifested universe, however, does not affect the oneness of consciousness in any way. Kashmir Shaivism relies on intuition for direct experience of reality, and it is this mystical experience that it translates into philosophical thought. It looks at the cosmos as one indivisible and integral reality with everything related to everything else. Pure consciousness it holds, and not matter, is the basic stuff of the universe. This view appears to have striking similarities with modern scientific thought, in particular quantum physics, which displays an increasing tendency towards a mystical or spiritual interpretation of reality. No longer does modern science insist that only material things are real and dismiss religious experience as wandering in a world of shadows. Max Planck, an architect of quantum theory of physics, says, I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness. We cannot get behind consciousness. Everything we postulate as existing requires consciousness. Modern science too appears to have reached conclusions which, like Kashmir Shaivism, present the world as a system of inseparable, interacting and ever-moving components and a cosmic web of interconnections and interrelations which is dynamic, active and alive, not passive and inert. Everything, the Kashmiri Shaivite says, is sentient, not even a stone being insentient. In Kashmir Shaivism, aspects of the dynamic consciousness that pervades the universe as its underlying reality are explained in terms of Spanda Shakti, or the vibrating power that generates change. Explaining the concept, Vasugupta says, vibration, Spanda, we mean subtle movement. It is subtle in the sense that although it moves not, it manifests motion. This subtle movement, generated by the vibrating force of consciousness, can be perceived as the movement from being to becoming, which gives rise to different appearances of form.